Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. I would sit here and say, oh, Chelsea's back, not fully, but kind of. But my God, what a nightmare of a friendly. Obviously, we lost. I'm not too fussed by that because we basically played a whole youth team against Aston Villa's first team, so I'm not exactly shocked by that. If anything, surprised we only lost 1-0. But the fact that, what is it with us and friendlies? Whenever we do a friendly where you're like, do we need to play this friendly? We get awful injuries. Like poor Armando Broja, he was screaming in agony. I don't even know how he got himself injured. Obviously, there was contact, but it didn't look that bad. His knee didn't look to get twisted. So it's clearly a knee injury, obviously. But oh my day, I don't even know. And we didn't even learn anything new because other than Jorginho and Aubameyang, basically no one played that will play for the remaining season other than hopefully, fingers crossed, Omari Hutchinson and obviously Lewis Hall to some extent. But essentially it was pointless. Oh my God. I'm devastated. Honestly, I am devastated. I was kind of looking forward to this game just to, see the Chelsea back and stuff. And if I'm honest, I completely forgot that Kepa was still injured. So, I completely forgot about that. Trevor Chalobah was supposed to start the game, then all of a sudden didn't. Everyone assumed he's injured. Then Sam365 or whatever his name is, who's usually quite good with early team news and stuff, he says apparently Chalobah is fine. But why was he named in the initial lineup then if he's fine? So I don't understand. It's just a nightmare. Let me get to my wonderful guests. Thank you for joining me, Charlie. I'll start with you. Maybe you don't find it quite such a nightmare as I do, but my God, that really didn't help anything. Other than Omari Hutchinson and Lewis Hall, no one else was really benefited from this.
No, I think basically that what we've ascertained from this friendly is that Potter's gained nothing from it other than the fact that he's been able to see what a few youngsters might be able to offer. We haven't learned anything really that's going to benefit the first team. We knew that Lewis Hall was a good player and we know that he should be more involved with the first team once the Premier League starts again. We knew that. We knew Omari Hutchinson was an exciting player. We saw more of his talent today. That underlines that he needs to be involved in the Premier League matchday squads once the season starts back up again. But other than that, we didn't really learn anything. We learned, that certain players could potentially be good in the future. The likes of I thought Rankin was decent. I thought Webster was pretty good as well in the midfield. I thought Alfie Gilchrist at the back wasn't bad. But we haven't learned anything that's gonna be of any use to us. What it has told us is that we're going to be relying on our youngsters to bail us out for the rest of the season. And we've got a lot of business to do in January. That's basically what it's told us. And we've lost another player to what looks like a serious injury. I'd be surprised. I mean, look, from the reaction, it doesn't sound good. You never know until the scans come back. But I'd be surprised if we saw Broja play. I don't want to say play again this season, but I certainly wouldn't expect him to see him until at least February or March. If we do, because I don't think you react like that.
You're probably being optimistic when you're talking February, March. If I'm honest.
But I don't think you react like that if it's not a serious injury. But I mean, look, I understand why Chelsea have played this match. Liverpool have been playing friendlies, United have been playing friendlies. It's a long time to not play football. You've got to do something. But ultimately, for our first team players, the only ones that benefited were Jorginho and Aubameyang. Everyone else doesn't really play first team minutes for Chelsea anyway. So you look at it and you think, well, what have we actually gained from that other than another person on the treatment table?
And that's the genuine question, because you mentioned it there. Obviously, every other team is also playing friendlies, arguably more than we are. I mean, Man United have already played 2 or 3 during the World Cup. Liverpool played today as well. Everyone's playing friendlies. So that's fine. I haven't checked everyone's teams, but I assume everyone has a few first team players around, but not that many. The problem is, even the ones that we would have around, like Kepa, he's injured. Like Loftus-Cheek, he's injured. Like Chalobah, at least he's not in the England squad, so he could benefit from a game like this or get some match sharpness ready before the season kicks back off for us on December 27th against Bournemouth. But then he doesn't play. Again, we don't know if he's injured or not, but still, if he's not injured, why is he not playing? If he is injured, what happened? And if he's not injured also, why was he named on the initial team sheet? I have so many questions.
That's the strange one for me. If he's picked up an injury in the warm-up, fine, just say. But if you were going to rest him, then what? As you say, what is the point? You wouldn't name him in the starting lineup to begin with, unless that was a mistake and Chalobah was mistakenly named on the
no,
team
unless
sheet.
it was a mistake from the social media
because otherwise it makes no sense whatsoever to name a player in the lineup to then say, oh, by the way, actually we're resting him. They're going to make a last minute change to the lineup. For me, that would seem utterly ridiculous, but it is Chelsea, so I wouldn't completely rule it out. But I would suspect that it's probably an admin error because you just wouldn't do something like that. But I mean, look, it's not a disaster. I mean, obviously losing Broja is a problem. When he leaves you with Aubameyang, who I'm not a huge fan of Aubameyang. I think he's poor. He's not what we need. He wasn't the answer anyway. And when you watched the football last night and you see that, Giroud would still be our best centre forward if we'd kept him, then, that tells us all you need to know about our decision making and the fact that Tchouaméni, again, we turned down the chance to sign him to go for Saul instead. And you wonder why, Chelsea have got problems because we make such bad decisions off the pitch in the past. And hopefully going forward, that'll change. But yeah, in terms of today, I was pleased with what I saw, but ultimately we didn't learn anything that we didn't really already know. And we've got another player on a treatment table, which is a big problem.
Yeah, it's a massive problem. Clutch, let me get to you. First of all, thank you for being here. Obviously it makes sense. That's how time difference works. But until you just tweeted it earlier, I was like, I think, look, you got up extra early for this one. Maybe you would have watched it regardless, even if you weren't on the stream. But if you didn't, appreciate you. But what are your thoughts? I mean, we'll get to Broja in more detail again in a few minutes. But I'll start with a question that I was for a little bit debating with Rob. I'm not sure if you guys know him. Rob, I forget his Twitter handle. Just Rob. He's been on the channel before. Because he basically called it another pointless friendly and another pointless injury in another pointless friendly, like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, obviously, between the end of the season and the Europa League final back in 2019. I disagreed with him because I'm like, well, it's a bit different because obviously we need to be a bit sharp. And if we, you need friendlies for that. And if we go into the game against Bournemouth and we look sluggish, slow, off the pace, just not fit, then everyone will complain why we didn't play friendlies. But then he did make a fair point in a sense that how many players that play today will actually be involved against Bournemouth anyway. It's literally Aubameyang. Well, now that Broja is injured, it's Aubameyang and Jorginho, Lewis Hall, and maybe, hopefully, better be Hutchinson. So it's 3, maybe 4. And everyone else is not going to be involved anyway. So you could maybe even actually argue that the game was completely pointless, which is weird because until now, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. But because obviously Ruben's injured, if Reece wasn't injured, he would be at the World Cup. So you can't really talk about that one. And the same goes for Chile. And maybe Fofana would be here because who knows whether he would have been called up to the French squad. But still, even the first team players that traveled to Abu Dhabi to be part of the warm weather training camp, other than the 3 I mentioned, of proper first teamers that weren't on Lewis Hall, who just recently joined the first team in Broja, Aubameyang, and Jorginho, none of them would have been involved. So would you deem this game as pointless, Clutch? Or do you still think having this game at the end of a bit of a training camp is kind of necessary and you will always have that?
The way I see it is the form that we were in beforehand. I mean, there is a good point that we don't have a lot of the players that might be involved, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of the players that also went to the World Cup, other than the English boys, Koulibaly, and I mean, Mendy might start when he comes back, but I think Kepa is close to being back. But still, I don't think any friendly is pointless because the more time you get out there, the more time you get to understand players, right? Now, obviously, I'm not a big fan of Aubameyang, and I've never been a big fan of Aubameyang. Signing him was probably one of the reasons why I really wanted to go out towards the end, was because I'm like, why do you want this guy? Like, he offers you nothing, and it's just because you had him before. But I think no friendly is pointless, right? Because you're able to get an idea of what these players can do. Now, a lot of these players will be back soon, other than Kovacic and Hakim Ziyech. So anytime you get more time, it's good. But the problem is, I mean, I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about how we want Potter out and whatnot. And it's like, it's just a friendly. Yes, any game you have a chance to get injured in, it doesn't matter. Anybody could have went out in the World Cup. Anybody could have went out on any given game. Anybody can go out in training. So like pointless injuries happen all the time. It to say like, oh yeah, well, this injury doesn't happen, we play that friendly. You don't know that. You just don't know that. It's 50-50. Injuries can happen anytime. So I think for me, it's not that it's pointless. I do like that we actually got time and got to see it. And like you said earlier, we didn't get blown out by Aston Villa's first team, even though I don't think Aston Villa is that great. But we didn't get blown out while also
Did
playing.
they beat them the last game before the World Cup, surprisingly, they beat someone. The first game with Unai Emery, didn't they? I thought so.
They beat United in Emery's first game. I think they beat United, but they also beat Brighton, I think, in one of their last games before the World Cup.
I don't think Brighton are bad since they changed from.
No, they're decent.
Yeah, so I think it's about taking away like what we can see from these matches. Like we now know Omari Hutchinson can seamlessly transition, and he can give us that right wing option that we need if we don't want to use Hakim Ziyech when he comes back. Like it's just we're seeing things that we do need to see, like, and then trying a back four. Like, oh, what does Jorginho look like in a back four in this situation? What is Lewis Hall if he's going to play in that double pivot with Jorginho? What's that going to look like? So I don't think it's pointless. I just think these like injuries happen, and it's sad for Broja because now we're going to have to watch most likely Aubameyang be our starting striker, who I know he's not going to do anything, and it's going to piss me off. So I don't think it's pointless. It's hopefully you use these games to kind of see what you have. And I know we have a couple of players that we can kind of like look towards now, but I'm really looking forward to when we get the other players back. I mean, we need more time together because the way we ended before the World Cup is just terrible. And that's kind of why like I'm not too mad about a lot of the players going out of the World Cup. And it's like we're going to get Silva back a little earlier, get him a little bit more fit and able to play for the beginning of the season. Mount, Sterling, Gallagher, Pulisic, all those guys. So for me, it's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean the fact that the team's players are going out early off the World Cup, aside from obviously if you wanted that team to win, especially obviously in Charlie's case with England, obviously I'm sure you're devastated. We can touch on that a little bit later as well. But from a Chelsea perspective, no, I agree with you, Clutch. It's just I saw a comment there. Let me just highlight it if I can find it. Where was it? Can't find it now. But basically, a lot of people are already complaining again about what are our tactics, what are we trying to do? Like now Potter's had basically time off. We're still shit. We can't score. We can't create much. Blah blah blah. But I'm like, but like, does this even show us anything? Because yeah, Clutch, you made a point. Yeah, with Jorginho and Lewis Hall, that's a thing. But how representative is that when the back four behind them consists of Humphreys, I forget his name, do you know what I mean? And whoever Brooklyn, who the right back was, and Webster as a number 10. Like how much do you really learn about what Jorginho and Hall do midfield when all the players around them have had less than 2 weeks of first team training in their lives? Like a lot of them, obviously, a few haven't. Like Omari Hutchinson has been in first team training a few times, and a couple of others as well. But a lot of these guys haven't had a lot of first team training until this World Cup gave them the opportunity. So, like, what are you going to learn? Like, they're not going to have all the best. We're not going to have our tactics sorted with these guys, are we? Like, let alone that they're not particularly good anyway. Like, not because they're not good enough as talents, but because they're young, right? And they've not had first team football yet. So that's why I'm like, I mean, Charlie, number one, I'll ask you the same question as well in terms of whether the game is pointless in your eyes, in hindsight now. Obviously, hindsight is a beautiful thing, but, you know, hindsight is still a thing. And also at the same time, whether you are now arguably, you know, back to being negative about Chelsea because you're like, okay, we saw another game. We had time to train on the pitch. We don't have, you know, me included, gave Potter the excuse, well, we don't have time to train. Now we did have time to train, but obviously not with a lot of players that are actually first teamers and that need to actually be good. So does it have any representation to you at all? Is it to you a concerning sign that we weren't any better? Or how do you see it? Because to me, again, like we played with a basically under 21s team for the large part against Aston Villa's first team. The fact that we only lost 2-0, obviously they could have scored more and we could have scored a couple as well, isn't awful. But I guess I can see what people talk about when they say, well, we didn't exactly play any good.
Yeah, but what are people expecting? We're playing with the academy team plus Cucurella, Jorginho, and Aubameyang, and then for the second half, I don't even. I mean, I even think we hardly had any first teamers on the pitch really. So what would you expect to be different? And this is an opportunity for Potter to get some time on the training pitch. Great, but as you rightly say, it's with players that aren't going to feature at all in the first team. The majority of them, yes, the likes of Aubameyang and Jorginho will feature, and it's good for them to have a bit of time off, get some good training under their belts. But for the likes of everyone else at the World Cup making up the bulk of the first team squad, irrelevant there. And then we've got Chile rehabbing, Kante rehabbing. We've got Reece James, Fofana, Chukwuemeka, all rehabbing as well out there. So those are guys that you think would get minutes, and it would be good. Ultimately, I think performance and stats are irrelevant in this game. It's a friendly where we've used the vast majority of players who are inexperienced, and we've given a very good account of ourselves against virtually Villa's first team. Yes, they put some youngsters in there themselves, but a strong Aston Villa side, an experienced Villa side, and we gave a very good account of ourselves. And to expect more is ridiculous. I don't understand what people are expecting. What? So we should have gone and won this friendly 5-0, and that makes everything all right. And then that means that Chelsea haven't had problems, and we forget about the first half of the season because we won a stupid friendly 5-0. I don't understand what people want from it, because yes, the whole purpose of playing friendly is to get minutes in the legs. The results are irrelevant. You just want to get fitness into the legs. So I'd love to know what people's solutions are. If you want to get rid of Graham Potter, what do you want instead? What's better? What's going to be better? Who's out there right now is going to do any better with this current crop of players?
Thank you for asking that question, by the way.
Because I don't understand. What do you want?
I think a lot of people think if we go get rid of Potter, we'll go get Tuchel back. Anybody who thinks Tuchel's coming back anytime soon, just forget about it. Just stop. He's not coming back. He's gone. Just let it go.
People got such short memories.
I'm not sure if anyone actually thinks that. I know there's a lot of deluded people out there, but does anyone actually?
You'd be surprised, mate. There's a lot of deluded people out there that think that would be a possibility. But people say, get a different manager in, but what's that going to do? It's not going to do anything. Under Thomas Tuchel, let's be perfectly clear. Yes, we had great times and we loved him, and he won us trophies. The league form was terrible. We were utter shit. And the same for the start of this season. We were dog shit. Have people forgotten getting hammered 3-0 by Leeds? The shit show at Southampton.
People only see the Champions League when it comes to Tuchel.
People don't understand. And this is what I've been saying. I was delighted for us to win the Champions League. But in the long run, the Champions League has done more damage than it has good, because it's allowed people to think that this squad was actually good when it's shit. And Tuchel managed to get this group together and get players to perform way above what their ability is. And now we're seeing them not able to replicate the heights that they reached. And we're seeing how good these players actually are, which for the vast majority of them is quite average. They just managed to massively overperform. And now we're seeing the reality of where we're at. So people don't understand that this squad is not good. Players aren't performing to the heights that they reached before. And it's going to take time and patience to fix it. If you think the answer to, making us closer to winning the Premier League again is to change managers every year, every 18 months, then we're going to be waiting a long, long time to win a Premier League title. You've got to allow a manager time to implement his ideas, to buy and sell the players that he wants, and to have a good shot at it. A good shot at it is maybe 2 or 3 seasons. Let's be honest, Chelsea, it's in Chelsea's DNA
but if you say 2 or 3 seasons a good shot at it, then Tuchel didn't get a good shot at it because he didn't get 2 or 3 seasons, to be fair.
No, but he wasn't sacked because of results. He was sacked because they didn't have a shared vision for the future. So that's slightly different. I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, for us, changing managers, we've seen it. And whilst, yes, under Roman, it brought us success, ultimately, it didn't bring us any long-term stability. It hasn't brought us a Premier League trophy for the longest time possible. And we don't look anywhere closer to doing it. And people that are calling for the manager to change obviously have a fundamental misunderstanding of how building a football team works. This fan base would have been calling for Pep to be sacked if he'd come fourth in his first season at Chelsea.
They absolutely would.
And this is what I do not understand.
It's credit, but
it's that spoiled mentality that I keep talking about every time I come on here. It's this fan base only knows Roman's way, and I'm not gonna we know people who are young, 21, right? That all they know is Roman's way. They don't know anything different. So all they know is instant success. Like, if you're not winning a trophy, then you're not Chelsea. But then we talk about, like, look what Man City, look what Liverpool do, right? They took that period to grind, to have those painful periods where they're not winning things, that they're building. Klopp had 5 years to build what he wanted. And now he's either almost always near the Champions League final and always up at the top, too.
Win a couple more, but,
So it's like people just don't understand. Like, success comes from pain. You have to have that pain. Now, if you think, like, oh, yeah, we can win the Premier League, but, oh, we're not going to win the Premier League this year, but we can win the Champions League, too. We can do that. That's a trophy we can win. No, you cannot do it all. It's just you have to have a period of transition, and people don't understand that.
Mm. I mean, when obviously someone Kusi here in the chat says Graham Potter's not Pep Guardiola, Graham Potter's not Jurgen Klopp. Of course, you're right with that. Now, that we can't sit here and say he has the credibility that those guys had when they took over. That's a fair enough point. And if that's your problem, fair enough. But at the same time, what are you going to do about it now? Also, how many managers are available that are like Pep or Jurgen Klopp? None. And please, for the love of God, don't mention Luis Enrique. Just look at what he did at Roma. Just look at what he did at Roma, and that's all you need to know. It doesn't count when you win the Champions League with Messi, Neymar, and Suarez. My flipping nan could win the Champions League with Messi, Neymar, and Suarez, right? So, calm your horses. Because 95% of Chelsea fans, if we had Luis Enrique, just watch Spain, we would pass like that. You thought Sarri played boring football? You thought Sarri played sideways football? You do not want Luis Enrique at this football club. You do not. Now, we would get amazingly good technically and at passing, but we would never score. And we would basically get a draw in every game or have penalties if there's the option of that. That's basically every game. Unless we play a bad team like Costa Rica and we win 7-0 potentially.
I think a lot of people's problems with Graham Potter is because we've been so spoiled over the years where under Roman we've always gone for a big name manager with massive personality, Mourinho personality, Tuchel personality, Conte, Ancelotti, even Sarri to an extent, personality. Potter isn't really charismatic like those managers are, and that's fine. Everyone's different, but to use that against him, he's not a good manager, or we need to get rid of him because he's not like what we had before. This is the first time in 20 years we've gone for a manager who's not a big name and who's not really proven at the top level. Okay, and for some people that's going to take a period of adjustment. And to realise that, you're not always going to go for a big name manager. And big name managers don't always work out. The amount of managers we've gone for that we thought would be good. Villas-Boas was shit. We thought he'd be good. Scolari just won a World Cup with Brazil. Turned out to be utter shit. We've gone for big name managers in the past and it hasn't worked. So what is wrong with going for someone that's up and coming, is a good manager, deserves a chance at the top? Why as a fan base are we so impatient and look to tear people down at the first possible opportunity? I just don't understand it. We've all got the same goal. We all want Chelsea to do well. We all want Chelsea to win. Let's support the manager. But by all means, criticise where criticism is due. And we've all criticised certain decisions, certain tactics in certain moments. But let's give the guy a bloody chance.
No. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's get to the game a little bit in more detail. As you can see here, we played in a 4-2-3-1, which was a little bit surprising. There's one other thing I want to mention. At the very end, we made some subs. And all of a sudden, Lewis Hall was playing left centre-back in a back four. And Charlie Webster, who started the game as a number 10, played right back. So even in the academy, we don't have enough defenders or what? What is this? This is unbelievable, quite frankly. But yeah, Marcus Bettinelli was in goal. He made 2 good saves today. But he also showed that our third goalkeeper is a lot worse than it was a few years ago when that was Willy Caballero, I will say. He is nowhere near as good as Willy Caballero. My God. One of the saves he made, he put it straight in the middle. It wasn't even a difficult shot at all. And he's just basically parried it to the penalty spot. I'm like, excuse me. For the love of God, we can never have 2 goalies injured, because if we play Bettinelli, we're going to get bad. Anyway, Josh Brooking was playing right back. Can't lie, never heard of him before, but did okay. Obviously, when I did actually mention all the first teams that were playing, I didn't mention Cucurella. I don't know why. I was well aware that he played. Don't know why I forgot to mention him. So fair enough. It's one more to what I spoke about earlier. Then the 2 centre-backs were Humphreys and Alfie. Is it Gilchrist or Gilchrist? I'm not 100% sure. But obviously, number 2 were the 2 centre-backs. Cucurella playing at left back. Then, like we touched on earlier already, Jorginho and Lewis Hall as a double pivot. Like I say, in the 4-2-3-1. Charlie Webster then as the number 10. Aubameyang was kind of the left wing. Armando Broja started up top. And Omari Hutchinson was on the right wing. Let's quickly talk about the injury, shall we? I mean, Broja was basically just chasing down the defender, Konsa, the Villa defender. He tried to somehow get in there, and he kind of just collided with his knee and leg with Konsa's hip, really. And then he turned and fell on the ground and just started screaming in absolute agony. Like, I'm not sure if you guys remember when John Terry got injured by Luis Suarez at Stamford Bridge many years ago, when they unfortunately collided knee on knee, and John Terry's knee bent backwards. And at a full Stamford Bridge, you had John Terry scream on TV. Obviously, I wasn't there, was I? So you heard him scream on TV. Now, obviously, this stadium was not particularly full, even though there was arguably more fans than you'd have expected. And the screaming, honestly, it just went right through my bones. Honestly, that was not fun. That was not fun at all. Now, obviously, you don't know for sure. It could just have hit a really painful spot and not actually be that painful, because when you tear a tendon, when you rupture a tendon, that isn't always the most painful thing. So just because pain doesn't necessarily directly always mean bad injury, but where he held his knee and how the fact that he was stretched off and didn't even attempt to get up, that looks bad. That looks real bad. And I'm petrified. I'm so petrified that this injury is going to make Todd Bowley make an offer to Cristiano Ronaldo. I am petrified of that. Honestly, I'm petrified. Ronaldo, man, leave me alone. Todd Bowley, if you're ever going to see this clip, you're not. But, if you are, please stay away from Ronaldo. Just please don't do it. You already ruined it with Aubameyang. Don't do it again, please. For the love of all that's mighty, please don't. And I follow that up with a question for you guys, actually, because one of the most difficult questions I've ever seen, quite frankly. I refrained from my answer on Twitter because I'm like, well, I don't want to answer that. And I'll start with you, Charlie. Let's say, for whatever reason, the only two options we have now are you recall Lukaku in January or you buy Ronaldo. Which one do you take? You can also refrain, because to me, they're just both awful options and I don't want any.
Oh, no, I'm going to get... I can't sit on the fence and not give an answer. They're both not ideal. One would obviously be significantly cheaper than the other. Lukaku is already on our books. And again, it's someone I think Potter would much rather work with Lukaku than Ronaldo. If right now, would it suit the Chelsea project, quote unquote, better to have Lukaku back for 6 months? I'll probably say yes, but then there's also part of me that says it's Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, it's not the Cristiano Ronaldo of old, but it's still Ronaldo. It's got a certain aura about it. He can score goals. Yes, at the World Cup, he was poor, and I think at the top level, I don't think he's perhaps quite there anymore in terms of regularly starting. He could be someone that could make an impact off the bench. But ultimately, for me, I do love Cristiano Ronaldo, but at the same time, I look at it and I think, what's best for Chelsea? It, right? What's best for Chelsea out of those two options? And I would probably say to bring Lukaku back. Because I think
I don't know,
because I think
as much as I don't want either, I'm not even sure what's worse.
Because I think he would offer a bit more to the team, and I just think he'd be better than they'd both be better than Aubameyang. Let's be perfectly clear about that. They would. I know Lukaku it's been poor, but let's make no mistake about it. They'd be both better than Aubameyang. I'd go Lukaku. Don't get me wrong. If Ronaldo came, I would probably be one of those guys that buys a Chelsea shirt with Ronaldo on the back. But
and I get that. Once he's here, he's here. You can't change it then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? If I had to be pushed on it, I'd take Lukaku.
Yeah, it's so difficult for me because Lukaku, obviously, where I'm like, will you even try? All of us insulted you badly. Hopefully, some did, of course, racially, because there are unfortunately twats in the world. Hopefully, nobody watching here, nobody involved used any racial slurs, but we most certainly abused it. Rightly so, in my opinion. So will he even, if he were forced to come back because even Inter don't want him anymore, would he even try? That's the problem. I feel like Ronaldo would at least try because he would want to prove a point. But Lukaku is 28 or 29 or whatever he is now. Ronaldo is 38. So like, or does he turn 30 in February? Whatever it is.
Yeah, he's 30, almost 38.
Yeah. So it's like Ronaldo would probably try harder, but because you can't say one is worse for the squad than the other. Both of them would cause equal amount of issues, in my opinion. There's not much of an difference there. But I honestly don't know. I don't even want to answer, but I honestly don't know. But Clutch.
Nah, mate, you need to answer. You can't not answer.
I'm gonna help you out.
Let me let Clutch answer first. I think I will answer though. Okay, I will answer. Clutch, what would you answer?
Due to YouTube's terms of service, I'm not allowed to say that because it includes self-harm.
Okay.
It'd probably be.
But if you don't answer, I don't have to answer. Do you know what I mean? So
he said probably Lukaku. He said
as well.
He said no. He said probably Lukaku. So there we go.
Did he? Okay. I honestly don't know.
Because let's be honest, the way we play, I've not seen a moment of magic from Ronaldo in how long? Like, he's just not the same player anymore. Like, and it's like he's not going to press. He's probably going to cause more problems than Lukaku will off the pitch or in the locker room. Yes, he's an amazing player.
That's the part I'm not sure about, that he will cause more issues, because Lukaku really doesn't want to be back at Chelsea. So, like,
I mean,
if
look what he already did with
back at Chelsea. I think that he would arguably cause more issues, if I'm honest.
So, what did he do to Manchester United, a team that he supposedly loves? He went straight to Piers Morgan, right? Portugal, he's off down the side throwing fits. He was walking off the field. He threw his captain's armband down. That's his home country. That's his country that he plays for. It's just somehow Ronaldo has a bigger ego than anybody I've ever seen on this planet. And if he's not doing well at Chelsea, I don't think he's going to hold back.
I'll say as it is. I know I said I'll go to the bloody bridge with a bloody Bowley out sign, and I will if we sign Ronaldo. But if you're putting me on the spot and Charlie's forcing me to give an answer, I will actually say Ronaldo, because it's my principles. The things I've said about Lukaku, I can't sit here now and say I'd rather Lukaku. I can't do that. Like, I don't want either factually, but if someone forced me to pick, I'd probably Ronaldo, purely in the hope maybe Ronaldo would only come for 6 months and leave again. If Lukaku came back, who knows how long he'd stay. So, on that basis, maybe I'd say Ronaldo, but yeah. And because someone said, how is this a conversation we're having? To be honest, we shouldn't be. But I saw the poll on Twitter. I didn't even select an answer, so I don't even know what people picked.
We're going to manifest this into reality, and it's going to annoy me.
No, exactly. It's true. But let's, unless any of you guys want to say anything about the injury of Broja, of course. All I can say is get well soon. I hope it's not as bad as it looks. If it's not bad, then you're a bit of a drama queen, Armando, but I let you completely off, because if you're fine, that's all that matters.
I think it's
not going to be fine, is he? He's not going to be fine.
I think it's an
But,
ACL.
probably it might be way worse than that. It might be ACL, meniscus,
because the way he outstretched, it looked like
MCL.
something just snapped inside his knee.
And the way he
That's
held
why
it,
he went down.
maybe it's the MCL, not the ACL, because he held it on the side, not on the back. But I'm no doctor, am I? You never know. You never know. But any other thoughts on it in terms of the team? I mean, the back four was Josh Brooking, Alfie Gilchrist, Bashir, Humphreys, and Cucurella. Any thoughts on them? I mean, the goal we conceded was a bit unfortunate. Cucurella did shift over, but he kind of had to.
But midfield just went missing. It was the midfield just missed, completely bypassed the midfield, and they were in, and it was a decent finish. But I still think we created some decent opportunities. Hutchinson hitting the post, they hit the post as well. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, results completely irrelevant in a game like this. So
There is, that's why I'm more trying to talk about individual performances rather than.
For me, I think I was impressed with Charlie Webster, Hutchinson, and Hall, as we both touched on. I thought Rankin was good when he came on. I felt Bashir, Humphreys, and Gilchrist at the back were half decent, not bad. There's definitely positives to take from the academy lads, but in terms of the first team, I don't think, as we've said, we didn't really learn anything.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, did Jorginho look awful? No, but
no.
I mean, we're playing against Aston Villa in a game that no one tried. I wouldn't expect, they didn't try super hard either. So I'm not expecting Jorginho to look bad. I thought Cucurella, other than maybe potentially for the goal. Should he be a bit more aware of what's behind him? Maybe. But we're being very critical if we're being super harsh on him on that one. I thought in general was actually okay. A lot of the tackling was pretty good, if I'm honest. Otherwise, Clutch, in terms of back line, any thoughts on that before we kind of slowly move up the pitch?
No, it just looked like a young back line against an experienced team. So it's all about learning.
It is very, very true. Midfield then, I guess we name all three, even if it was a double pivot and then a 10 in front of them. Not really that much to say on Jorginho, but Lewis Hall, obviously his first time actually playing for the first team in his more usual central midfield position, because obviously he's played at left back and left wing back and left centre back so far for the first team, where he's always shined, in particular left wing back. But now we finally got to see him in what is probably more his ideal position. Did I think he was better than he was a left wing back? No, but was he very good? Yes. Could he have done a bit better on occasions? Sure. Absolutely. He arguably should have scored one. The biggest chance we had just at the beginning of the second half, I didn't see completely because I just came back from the toilet. And the first thing I saw was the end of the replay. So I didn't fully see it, if I'm honest, but looked like he should have scored, if I'm honest. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Lewis Hall. I'm a big fan. I'm not sure if we ever mentioned it on this channel, but he's now has officially joined, is now part of the first team squad. So even when Chile is back and everything, he won't go back into the academy. Will he then now be used more in midfield if we have Cucurella and Chilwell back? Likely. But will he get a lot of game time there? We'll have to wait and see. But he did okay, didn't he, Clutch?
I thought he struggled a little bit in the first half, but I thought he really came into the second because it just seemed like because they got a counter because he got caught on the ball a couple times. So I think it's all about learning. But I think as the game grew on, he got better and better and better. But I don't think he was bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just thought it was like you could tell there was either rust or just since he doesn't play that position for us on the first team level, he kind of seemed a little bit lost, a little bit trying to figure out what Jorginho was going to do. But he was okay. I wouldn't call him bad.
Yep, fair enough. Just to quickly reply to this comment here, what happened to Nkunku? Nothing happened to Nkunku. He will join Chelsea, but in the summer, not in January. So he won't fix the problems that we have right now. But Charlie, your thoughts? Lewis Hall, first time in midfield for the first team. What do you make of it?
Yeah, he looked good. I thought, he looked comfortable there. And that is what he says is his best position. We're accustomed to seeing him play, as you say, left wing back. He's played left of a 3 before. Looks comfortable, wanting to get involved in the ball, an exciting player. Promising. And I think, as you've touched on, he's now officially moved buildings. He's now in the first team building. He's going to be he's part of the first team squad now. So I don't think there's any more. I say that, but there probably is unlikely to be many more appearances for him for the 21s or the 23s, whatever it is now. Yeah. And he's going to be a fully fledged member of the first team. And he's going to be an important player because he's one of those guys that is very good in multiple positions. And with the injuries we've got and the lack of players that are performing well, he could see a lot of minutes for the second half of the season. So yeah, I was encouraged by his performance. But again, we know how good he is from what we've seen of him so far.
Absolutely. And we get to the front line then quickly. To be honest, I don't have that much to say on Charlie Webster. He looked decent, but I didn't really. But I was also because didn't have my graphics designer wasn't available today, and my backup graphics designer wasn't available either. So I was struggling for thumbnails while the game was happening. So sometimes I might not have paid the most attention. So please let me off. But I didn't really see anything that stood out from Charlie Webster. I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. I'm just say it how I saw it. But Charlie, do you disagree with that, or would you agree that he was decent but nothing stand out?
Mate, do you know what I was getting confused about? Because him and Kukurev both got massive hair. Yeah. They were looking pretty similar. Look, there was nothing like stand out, as in like nothing that caught the eyes. Like, oh wow, this guy's special. Like perhaps with Hutchinson, but I think he looks comfortable. He looks solid. He didn't necessarily do anything wrong. He kept it simple. He did most things right. But I don't really think, we learned too much other than, this guy could be pretty good for us potentially in a few years' time, but he probably isn't quite ready just yet. Fair enough.
What? Damn, Laurenz basically said he ain't no Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I don't know what you're talking about, but sure. Super Tommy Tuchel with the dagger of a question to me. Bloody hell, mate. What am I going to do if we get Ronaldo in January? Are you trusting the process? If we get Ronaldo in January, there is no process. quite frankly. But if we did sign him, then I would just sit here and hope that it's only for 6 months, because Nkunku joins in the summer, and it's only a 6-month period in which we hope Ronaldo scores us some important goals that helps us get top 4 and maybe to win the Champions League. But basically get rid of him as soon as we can again. And it's mostly on the back of Broja's injury. But, people really trigger me, no matter what it's about, whether it's about Potter or about Bowley or about Ronaldo or about anybody, when people say, I'm not going to support the club anymore. It's not how supporting a football club works. I don't support the football club because of individuals in the team. So I'm not going to stop supporting the football club because of individuals in the team either. I support the football club, right? So that's not going to change. I'm just going to sit here and hope the 6 months pass as quickly as possible. And that's really it if that does happen. But I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that it doesn't. As simple as that. But let's get to the front line then, because, let's start on a positive. Omari Hutchinson. Now, is he perfect? No. Did he miss the timing of a pass on a couple of occasions? Sure. Could he maybe have shot on a different moment on a couple of occasions? Sure. But he's the first reasonably quick left-footed winger this football club has seen, I'm pretty sure, since Ian Robin and Damien Duff. Have we had a left-footed winger since then? Obviously, Hakim Ziyech, but he's not quick, so therefore quick and left-footed. Who have we had since then? I can't remember one. I swear all of them being right-footed. Obviously, Pedro was very left-footed, but he was arguably not quick. So he must, and I can't stress this enough, must at least be on the bench against Bournemouth. I'm not saying he has to start, but he must be on the bench. If he's not at least on the bench, I will ask serious questions of Graham Potter, because how can you sit there and have seen the attackers that we do have, whether it's Ziyech, even though he didn't really give him much of a chance, potentially this World Cup could unlock a different Hakim Ziyech that we haven't seen at Chelsea yet. We'll have to wait and see. But, even Pulisic, on and off, can have great games, can have dead games. What Mount's constantly playing as a forward. I can't even remember the others we have. Obviously, Broja is now injured. Aubameyang playing on the wing today. Omari Hutchinson needs to be in the squad. That curling effort, I know it hit the post, but the way he went past Digne, as much as Digne just defended really poorly, he needs to be in the squad, man. And honestly, if anything, I'm a little bit shocked by what I've just seen, that he hasn't been in the squad until now, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's the part.
No, he was on the bench against Brighton.
No, it's true, it's true. But in terms of
in the league,
way sooner. I know we signed him in the summer, but why didn't the academy see him and send him to the first team immediately? Do you know what I mean?
Do you not think? I know it's he's different-footed, and we're getting excited about him. But wasn't this the same kind of, obviously, a little bit before us, I guess? But wasn't this kind of the same buzz and excitement when Callum Hudson-Odoi was playing youth team football? I'm not saying I necessarily it's right or not, but I just wanted to put that out there that we're getting excited about Hutchinson. Great, he looks promising, but this is one friendly against Villa in Abu Dhabi in December.
No, again, Hakim Ziyech is not quick. That's why I said
no.
Fast and left-footed.
Yeah,
but Charlie, don't you think that the excitement about Hudson-Odoi when he was super young was completely justified?
Yeah,
because
of course.
I think at the time it was justified. It was just that his injury really hampered him, and then he didn't develop as much as.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't be excited about Hutchinson. We absolutely should, but is he necessarily any better than Callum was when at this age?
It's probably worse than Callum was, because Callum was a super talent.
He was phenomenal. This is what I'm saying. So I think we got to be careful not to big players up too much. He's done great. He's done great stuff in the youth teams, and he looks pretty good today. But ultimately, as we know, the step up from youth team, academy football, whatever you want to call it, to first team football is absolutely massive. And it will take time for. I'm sure that Hutchinson will transition and make that step up, but we've got to be careful, because I'm not saying you necessarily, mate, but I just mean in general as a fan base, we've got to be careful not to big players up too much, because we big them up too much and then they don't reach the heights that we expected them to, and then people start saying they're shit, and that's how we get into a cycle of kind of player hate and whatnot. I think Hutchinson is an exciting player. I think he's good. He looks promising, but we just got to be patient with the guy. Give him opportunities in the Premier League, see what he can do. And go from there, because I think I've seen a lot of people, dare I say it, comparing him to what Eden Hazard used to do for us. I'm just like, Jesus, guys, calm down. He's played what? He's played one friendly for the club. It's like, Jesus Christ.
No, I agree with that.
Like, what are we doing? But yeah, look, I think he's exciting. Probably not as good as Hudson-Odoi was at that age. That's for sure. But it's another promising thing. And also just on Hudson-Odoi, it's mad how, we're talking about lack of attackers and stuff. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily the answer, but no one even thinks about him anymore as a Chelsea player. He's still a Chelsea player.
I keep hearing people say they want to recall him. I don't know.
I mean, we're playing Aubameyang on the
side
wing.
of
I'd
Twitter,
certainly
I guess,
rather
but-
Hudson-Odoi than Aubameyang on the wing, that's for sure. So,
100%. Yeah, if it's a choice of who plays down one side, Hudson-Odoi or Aubameyang, it's Hudson-Odoi all day because Aubameyang doesn't offer anything.
No, exactly. I mean, I've posed this question, or just your thoughts on Hutchinson in a second to you as well, Clutch. I agree with what Charlie said. And if we were in a position, say, like Man City, and we're like fighting for the league title, obviously I then wouldn't sit here and say, put Omari Hutchinson in the squad, at least on the bench, maybe even starting. Obviously not. But with how our form has been and how our attackers have performed, I'm like, they don't exactly deserve to constantly play. So might as well give him a chance. There's a good chance once it is an actual Premier League game, not friendly, then, he might not perform the way he did today. But I think he did enough today compared to what all the others have done so far to at least be given a chance. Not to start necessarily, but be involved.
I don't disagree with that. 100%, he has to be involved in matchday squads and given an opportunity. That's not in doubt at all. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, there you go. RD obviously slagging off Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi has actually been okay for Leverkusen. Obviously, the numbers in terms of goal and assists don't look great. He scored a lot of goals that were ruled out, not due to his fault. Like there was like fouls in the build-up, and he scored. All of a sudden, it was ruled out. Someone else was offside. He scored. It was ruled out. He played a great assist. Something happened before that. It was ruled out. That's actually happened on multiple occasions.
Just on stats real quickly. Stats are great, but they're also a massive problem because people
you can't just use stats if you didn't watch the combination.
Because people only ever think that unless you've done a goal or an assist, you've had a shit game, or if you don't get good numbers, you're a shit player.
By that logic, Hazard wasn't very good because
that's
Hazard
not how it works.
And assists, but not.
No, he didn't. Hazard wasn't a prolific goal scorer at all. Yeah. Like, and if he was around in that sort of stats age,
he still scored more than he assisted. So that tells you enough.
But stats is not everything. You can still be good and not have the best numbers.
Yeah. But obviously, he still had much better numbers than Hudson-Odoi.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us. By the way, sorry, Charlie. I will get to you in just a second. I just want to give Clutch the chance to actually talk about this because I feel like me and Charlie have been going back and forth for the last 10 minutes now. Clutch, thoughts, Omari Hutchinson, also in terms of what I have said, in terms of needs to be involved against Bournemouth?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have him on the bench. Obviously, by that time, you're going to have Ziyech, Sterling, Pulisic all available. And I guess it just depends on the formation you play. If we're playing wide wingers, then I think Hutchinson has to be there because he can give you that option of a quick left-footed winger, like you said. So I think it just depends on how we want to come back and play. If we're going to stick to a back four, I think he's a very good option to have out there, to have on that right wing. Very direct, very good at dribbling. I mean, that shot was kind of ridiculous where he cut in and almost bent it and hit the post. That was actually ridiculous. I mean, you don't see that from our wingers very much anymore. So I would give him a shot at some point. But like Charlie said, I mean, this fan base tends to, whenever they see somebody, immediately go to Hazard because Hazard's the best player that we've had. And it's like, you can't keep doing that. A lot of these players are young. They're going to have to develop into something first. So let them develop and then see what they can do. Because you saying, hey, he looks like Hazard, then you're going to put that expectation of him having to do Hazard things. And it's not going to be consistent at the age that he's at. I'm sorry. So don't do that.
Let's be honest. Like, I mean, maybe I'm misjudging him and I'm not giving him enough credit, but likelihood is Omari Hutchinson is never going to be like Hazard, no matter whether he's young or not. Do you know what I mean?
No player we have is going to be like Hazard. No player we ever have will be like Hazard. Sorry.
No, exactly that. I mean, hey, the future's long. Maybe in 100 years we will, but not anytime soon, that's for sure. Pice, first of all, thank you for joining us. What do I start? Shall I just start on a positive note and not drag you back into the Broja situation? I'll start on a positive note, Pice. Omari Hutchinson. Exciting, right? Do you think do you agree with me that he at least must be on the bench against Bournemouth? I'm not saying he must start necessarily, but also that depends on availability because, I mean, Clutch, you mentioned Ziyech there, but number one, he might make the World Cup final. And he already looks like he had to come off slightly injured, but he will definitely start the next game. So who knows how fit even he's going to be. Do you know what I mean? So who knows how many players we will have available come then. But your thoughts on Hutchinson today and your thoughts on well, what we need to do with that going forward?
Yeah, I was good to be on. I didn't think I was going to be able to get on this stream, but got back in time. Yeah, I mean, I watched the game. It was very boring, but I didn't really expect anything, to be honest. I mean, look at the team we played. Aston Villa also had like their full strength team out pretty much, and I think they've already played a game. I think they played Brighton a few days ago. But yeah, Hutchinson was the standout. I also thought Jorginho's passing was really good. Like I was enjoying him playing. Where he was. He made a few good passes, but yeah, Hutchinson looks good. He looks really good. He looks positive. He looks skillful. He looks quick. And he's a dribbler. He's a dribbler. So yeah, unlucky he didn't score that goal, but he looks good. I mean, he's only young. He's still going to improve on his decision making at times. But yeah, I think in terms of Bournemouth, I think you guys were talking about that. I don't think he'll start, but he definitely needs to be at least promoted to the first team, in my opinion. Because when he's playing for or go out on loan or something, but preferably be in the first team. Because as you guys said, I think our wingers we all know they're inconsistent, and it wouldn't surprise me if the young guy was turned out to be the most consistent out of the rest.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I personally don't think loans in January are a good move anyway for young players because then you join this team who have played all season long already. No team that's going to be of a reasonable level is going to sign an 18-year-old, I think that's how old it is, Omari Hutchinson, to save their season, basically. So you're not guaranteed to start. You weren't part of preseason. So a January loan move isn't a good idea anyway. So just have him in the squad for the rest of this season. And then maybe see if we can get him a good loan in the summer. But I don't think we should be doing a January loan here. I think that would be a little bit crazy. 19 even. There you go. But to move on with the rest of the forwards, and Pice, you can obviously touch on the Broja injury after that. Aubameyang, what is the guy doing? I don't understand. His runs are awful. His touch is awful. What is he doing? Now, obviously, I'm not going to be super, super duper harsh today because obviously he was playing with a lot of youngsters around him. So the understanding, the connection isn't probably going to be great. But I just don't understand his decision-making of runs half the time. And then that one shot he had, I'm like, who do you think you are, man? What? James Rodriguez in 2014? What are you doing? But every time he made, we attacked with two people and he made a run every time to drag defenders. I'm like, but the other guy had no other passing option. So you can't just drag defenders. You need to actually make yourself available. What are you doing? I don't understand this at all. But yeah, and obviously, we didn't really see much. There was one occasion where maybe we could have done a bit better and potentially scored, but we didn't. And then obviously got injured. Dion Rankin came on for him, who I was made to believe, and this is only off Twitter, I didn't watch him before, I'll be perfectly honest. I thought he was supposed to be a right wing back. At least people told me, play Rankin a right wing back when we had injuries and stuff. And all of a sudden, he came on and played left wing and was really good. So I'm now confused. So, Pice, if you have any idea or thoughts on that,
Yeah, he is a right back or right wing back. That's where he plays. I guess that's just how short.
More confused though, because did you notice at the end, Charlie Webster played right back, even though Rankin was on the pitch. So doesn't that even make less sense now?
I don't know. it's the game where
weird, man. What is this?
Yeah, I mean, I heard about obviously. I mean. The Sam Team News Laker guys said that Chalobah was starting and then Potter decided to rest him. So from that point, I was just like, I mean, I don't take this game too seriously. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do hear what you're saying. I mean, let me get to the other boys before I go almost a little slightly round to it to talk about more generally stuff with you, Pice. Clutch, forwards in general, other than obviously Hutchinson, Rankin, Aubameyang, thoughts? Obviously, not much to say on Broja for the part of the season that he played.
Rankin looked okay. He did look a little lively, but again, Aubameyang, I keep saying it. Why did we buy this guy? His runs are terrible. He doesn't ever jump for anything. And the one shot he did take, he could have passed it over. I think it was Hutchinson coming over off that right-hand side, wide open. Just decided to take that outside the foot shot that went straight at the keeper. What has happened to the guy? He's terrible. I can't stand that we have Aubameyang.
Fair enough, Charlie. Thoughts, Aubameyang ranking?
I said earlier, man, I think ranking was pretty positive. I liked what he brought to the table. As I said, normally he plays wing back, but he was a little bit further forward. I liked what he offered. Looks direct. And was promising. Is he ready for the first team? No, probably not just yet. But I thought he had a good performance. In terms of Aubameyang, I've said this loads of times. This guy is washed. He's not good enough. We should never have signed him. And what makes it worse is the fact that we signed him for Tuchel, who was then sacked the very next game. So why we sanction that is beyond me. Graham Potter would never, ever have signed Aubameyang for Chelsea. Yeah. Absolutely no chance. And it's I like what the guys have done so far since they've taken over the club. This was a big L, a massive L to bring in Aubameyang, an aging forward who is not up to it anymore, and he just offers nothing to the team. It's as simple as that. It's another. It goes down for me as another one in the long line of shit centre forward signings that we've made.
Yeah, there you go. Pies, let me get to you. I asked a few questions to the boys earlier, including, was this game utterly pointless? Like, did we have to play this game in which Broja now got injured? Now, obviously, Clutch replied in saying, well, he could have got injured in training. Absolutely spot on, of course. But I still have to pose the question because Rob, I'm not sure if you saw it on Twitter, Pies, but he was basically talking about, well, how pointless is this? Like, basically none of the players that play today will play against Bournemouth anyway. There's still a few. There's Cucurella, there's Jorginho, there's potentially Lewis Hall, depending on fitness situations by then. And of course, there is, whom I forget, Aubameyang. Now there's no Broja. But is the game pointless? And then also take it into talking about the injury for Broja. Do you fear that could mean Ronaldo? Do you fear that could mean recalling Lukaku? Could it just mean we sign Ivan Toney in January? Like, could it be a positive?
I think the game discussion, whether it was relevant or needed or not, is quite a difficult one because I kind of see like both sides. I mean, it's not like when it got announced, I was like, why are we playing this? Like, it was a bit, but I do understand it for fitness reasons. But at the same time,
every team's playing multiple friendlies, so we're not the odd one out here.
Yeah, exactly. I think this always happens. Like whenever an injury happens in like a preseason or like a friendly, it's like, oh, why did we play it? Like, like anyone could have got injured. Like it's kind of like hypocritical as well. Because like say like Bashir Humphreys or something done his ACL, like people would not be going as mental about like, like if it was Broja. And I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I think it's just because it's Broja and it's now puts us in a difficult position that they're actually just like going at whoever organised the friendly. So the owners probably.
Yeah. I mean, say, because some people have compared it to like the Ruben injury, obviously in that friendly in the US. In my opinion, not comparable at all. Like
was stupid. That was a stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Because we played a game on a different continent in the week between the last league game, Prem game, and the Europa League final. That's stupid. And we only, obviously we raised money for charity, amazing, but why not do it in pre-season in July? Why do you have to do it between the two games still? That didn't make any sense to me. But now we obviously, you need to have fitness in there. Now, obviously, because very few players that will be involved against Bournemouth will play today, the fitness argument maybe doesn't stand that, well, I guess, but what are we going to do? Like, what's Potter going to do about the fact that Chile isn't fit yet, Reece isn't fit yet, Fofana isn't fit yet, Kepa isn't fit yet, Loftus-Cheek isn't fit yet? Like, those are 5 players that theoretically could have been involved but aren't fit. Like, what can we do about that? Like, it just is what it is. But what I do find it weird when all of a sudden Webb stays at right back, even though we have a different right back playing left wing, and Lewis Hall is playing left centre back in a back 4. I was like a bit baffled. I can't lie. But Pies, in terms of Broja, what do you think happens now? Obviously, first we need to see how bad the injury actually is. I'm not sure if you've seen anything on the basis of that, if Potter said anything or whatever. But your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any interviews yet from Graham Potter, but you know what he's going to say. He's just going to say we need a scan and it doesn't look good. So, it's very, very bad. When it's like it's kind of contact, but kind of non-contact because he fell on his knee, didn't he? So, but as soon as
he hurt himself before he fell already. If you see the replay, he starts shouting before he even hits the floor.
Yeah, like so when you scream that badly. Like, it gave me nightmares and flashbacks to the Zuma injury. Remember when he jumped it against Man United? See, I was at that game, and I remember all I heard was just screams.
Yeah.
It was.
I mentioned the Sean Terry one against Luis Suarez many years ago against
Bro,
Liverpool.
I can't.
That was
I
funny.
literally. I can't watch. I watched the video once. It actually, like, it makes me like sad. Like, it makes me
Yeah,
distressed.
it makes you
watching
like
that.
your
Bro,
nails
it's
curl
weird.
back.
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like watching it. I can just hope he gets back, ASAP. It's probably going to be several months, I'd imagine. But look, let's wait for the scan. I know you asked me about in terms of January. Look, if Ronaldo joins this club, I will have no faith in this ownership because they're trying to build something clearly that is the complete opposite of what signing Ronaldo would be. So, Ronaldo doesn't love Chelsea, have any attachment to Chelsea. Like, he literally kicked off at his club where he's a legend at. Can you imagine what he did? What he
And
would
his
do here?
national team.
Yeah,
Like his national
bro,
team.
he's the biggest man child ever. I don't care. I can't believe I'm seeing some Chelsea fans saying 6-month no-brainer. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We don't even create chances for Aubameyang and fucking Broja. Like, what's Ronaldo gonna do for us? He's washed. Like, even when he does get chances, he doesn't score them often. You know what I mean? Like,
he's going to take free kicks into the walls. What he's going to do?
Oh my god, mate!
Oh,
I
mate,
don't. If we sign that guy, I don't know what I'd
He
do for the
will
rest of the
demand to
season.
take free kicks, wouldn't he? Fuck me.
I hate him. I
And
absolutely
penalties.
hate him.
Yeah, no, those are fine. He will score those. Do you know what I mean?
I can't stand the guy. He has no attachment to Chelsea. Like, the fact that, as I said, like, what he's done at Man U and Portugal is just, it's, maybe many months ago I was kind of semi-considering it, but now I'm just so far beyond that line. It's like, absolutely not. I don't know who we will get in January, but, I mean, obviously, I guess the discussion of Felix comes back up again now because obviously he's going to leave in January, so maybe they do sign in, but again, not really a number 9. The commentator Jason Cundy was mentioning how, yeah, I mean, the other guy was saying, oh, but we've got Havertz and stuff, but Jason Cundy was like, no, but Broja is like he gives us something different. He's the only out and out big physical 9 we've got. Aubameyang's a 9, but he's still a different profile. He's been playing out on the wing for us more than 9, so. Yeah. I don't know what we're gonna do. I have no idea. We'll probably sign another. If it's not Ronaldo, we'll probably sign someone who is probably like Aubameyang, who's just gonna leave in a year or something. So I don't know, man. It's fucked. It's a fucked situation.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I still think we should just give Leipzig a call and make, good old Christopher Vivels give like a little call to Leipzig and say, are we sure we can't like for 5 mil extra or something, having him conquer in January? Like maybe when he's even back fit, because obviously he missed the World Cup. I don't even know how long
he's out for like 2 months, isn't he? So
well, there you go. So even that's half pointless. Although Musa, I can't lie, that comment did make me laugh. CR37, that is brilliant. CR37, that is great. Love it. But Pice, I'll put you on the spot now. You won't like it, but I will put you in the spot because Charlie forced both me and Clutch to answer, so you have to answer as well. If the only 2 options that we were given, and you have to pick between those 2, and it's either recall Lukaku or sign Ronaldo, what do you do?
Lukaku, 100%. Not even a doubt.
To be fair, for you that makes sense. You weren't as harsh on Lukaku as I was.
No, I don't like him anymore. But like, it's just like. I wouldn't fall back into the trap of I'm back sort of thing. I still think he's a bit of a clown, but like, yeah, no, Lukaku all day over Ronaldo. At least Lukaku's still sort of semi, like he's still semi top level. You know what I mean? Like he can put the ball in the back of the net, but and he's not.
Ask Belgium about that one.
Yeah, no.
To be fair, Lukaku would probably end up injured and stay injured for the rest of the season until he got to the summer.
He's been injured for the whole season as it is. So
exactly.
I was going to say, like, in terms of that, obviously the last Belgian game, no, but like, I think the impact he has coming on at least is something, I guess.
Yeah. I hear that. From a footballing perspective, I agree with you. My answer was Ronaldo purely because I said a lot of things about Lukaku that I stand by. So I can't sit here now and say I'd take Lukaku. But
Ronaldo would be worse. After 3 weeks, he'd come out saying how bad our creative stuff is, and I think
of course he would. But does Lukaku want to come back after the abuse he's received from us? Do you know what I mean? Like Lukaku would hate every single second of being here. At least Ronaldo would probably try to prove a point. Like he's still, but it's not good enough. Obviously, we're all aware. You know how I feel about Ronaldo. But if I'm forced, I'm like, yeah, Ronaldo for 6 months. Because if Lukaku comes back, who knows how long he's going to be? It might be another 4 years. Do you know what I mean? Don't even give him that straw. So with Ronaldo, I feel like there's a good chance it could only be 6 months if it does happen. So
I mean,
I said Ronaldo, but all the others said
Ronaldo would probably cause some drama, which a lot of Chelsea fans would agree with some of the stuff he says. But in terms of the football pitch, I mean,
would Lukaku, let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree that Lukaku from a footballing perspective is better. Yeah, but I want to stick to my principles. But yeah, is there anything else that we should really discuss? I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. What I am arguably more confused about than why did we have this game is why is this the only friendly we have at least so far officially planned? Why don't we have another one next week? That's the part where I'm a little bit, because I'm like, okay, by then we will have a few more players back. Mendy might be back. Koulibaly might be back. Pulisic might be back. Like a few of these players that were at Havertz, a few of the players that were at the World Cup. What, sorry?
I think Potter said they're coming back tomorrow.
No, that's my point. That's my point. So why are we not playing a game next week with them? Because that would actually be a beneficial game to get a bit of sharpness back into them, especially after I'm sure they had a week where they did nothing other than chill. Understandably so, no problem with that. But that would be way more required, in my opinion. Like a game in a week's time would be much more useful than a game today, in my opinion. Charlie, do you agree with that? I mean, maybe we still will. Maybe we'll play it behind closed door friendlies at Cobham or whatever. But as of now, we don't know about it.
I don't know. Look, I think these guys that are returning from the World Cup aren't exactly lacking match fitness. They've all played at least 3 games. Well, the majority. I don't know. Gallagher's played no minutes at all. Obviously, the rest of them have played.
We should just ask him to come back immediately. I'm sorry, Gallagher doesn't need a week off.
But I say the majority of the players involved have played at least 2 or 3 games. I don't think they're exactly short of match fitness. Would another friendly be beneficial? Who knows? And as you say, they might just do something behind closed doors at the training ground. Maybe. Obviously, I don't think it's necessary to go and travel to go and play another match unless it was unless it was within England.
Travel to Milton Keynes, it's okay.
I think at this late stage, if there's not anything else penciled in, I don't really think there is a plan for any more. Because you probably plan these things.
I find that surprising, if I'm honest. Clutch, your thoughts?
I don't know.
I see what Charlie says in terms of that. Obviously, they've played, so they're not exactly lacking match fitness. I see that. At the same time, I mean, if Havertz joins tomorrow, how long ago is his last game? 2 weeks? And he played a little bit in that. Because it's not just about actual match fitness, it's about playing together again, They were all with their national teams. They all play different systems. They play with different players. Throwing them straight back into the Prem without any sort of preparation game is a bit crazy. Obviously, this is an unknown situation that no club has ever been in because we've never had a mid-season World Cup. But yeah, I think we could very much so do with another. Maybe it's even 11v11 within our own squad. Maybe that's enough as well. Fair enough. But we need something, in my opinion. Clutch, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with you. I think, if you even look at Havertz, he played 60-some minutes for the first game of Germany, and then 20, 30 of the last game? He didn't even feature in the second game. So he's not going to have a whole bunch of minutes. Pulisic has 90.
Which game Germany had the least chances in? That second one. Okay, it was against Spain, but fair enough.
Yeah. But I do think, especially when it comes to terms of this team was struggling together for the last, month and a half? As much time as you can get with them together with most of the squad. I mean, who knows if Ziyech is going to feature? We know Kovacic will feature, so that's kind of unfortunate. But most of the other guys coming back are going to be the guys that are going to be playing the most minutes when they do come back. So getting as much game time with them together as possible would be ideal, especially if you're going to change the formation. If you're changing formation, then these guys are going to have to start to understand what Potter wants in this new formation and whatnot. So I tend to agree that we do need more friendlies, if you will, but it's not for match fitness. It's more for understanding each other and being able to get that chemistry up.
I do think people underestimate sometimes even 2 weeks of doing nothing, because obviously Pulisic just now, he's just chilling at home, going to basketball games and everything. That's completely different to a week of training when you didn't play in the game. It's completely different. You lose so much sharpness just by a week or two of doing nothing. It's crazy. So Again, Pies, your thoughts on that? Do you think whether it's behind closed doors or a proper one, we should do with another friendly before we go back into it, or do you not really mind so much?
I think they'll probably will play something behind closed doors. I mean, they happen more often than people think. So yeah, I think even if it's like you said, more likely to be like like maybe even like 11v11 in our own sort of ranks. But I mean, you can always probably call Fulham across or a team like that QPR. So yeah, I think that'll probably happen at Cobham. I reckon. I'd imagine so anyway.
Fair dues. I mean, EPL Turf asks here if what we saw today was an indication that Potter wants to play a 4-3-3. I'm not sure, considering we played a 4-2-3-1. But obviously, we had different players available. Now, the fact that Webster played right back at the end makes me think he could have clearly played as a number 8 as well. And he chose to play 4-2-3-1 instead. So I'm not 1,000,000% sure if it's going to be 4-3-3. But I do think it's going to be a 4 at the back. I do believe that. But who knows? I mean, I might well be wrong. Someone earlier in the chat asked what we made of Cesare Casadei, who obviously came on and played his very first minutes. For as far as I'm aware, he might have played friendlies for the Inter Milan first team, but he certainly hasn't played any competitive first team games. Maybe this was his first ever first team game. I can't lie, I didn't really see him do anything. But not necessarily because he was bad, but just because, it's a friendly. We had the bad injury, which, lowered the intensity of everybody involved even more, because obviously everyone gets a bit scared when that happens. There wasn't really much going on towards the end of the game. Just Villa had a few chances and somehow Bettinelli bailed us out, and Danny Ings being a bit shit in front of goal. But anybody have any thoughts on Casadei? Obviously, he's done very well in terms of the under-21s team while the World Cup has been going on. He scored a hat-trick, he scored a screamer. He's been doing okay, but he's under-21s football. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But he does look good. So who was saying anything?
I think anyone interested in Casadei, I think Fabrizio recently said he's expected to go out on loan in January. So I think that's probably the next step for him.
I just hope we don't send him to Italy, because I think that defeats the point then. I understand for his comfort, that might be beneficial, but I feel like for his footballing development, I would rather he doesn't get a loan to Italy. Not because Italy's bad, but just because I'm like, give him something different, because he spent his whole life other than the last 6 months in Italy. So give him something different, in my opinion. But Clutch, did you see anything of Casadei that you could talk about?
I seen a nice pass. He had a nice pass, but other than that, it was just kind of like he was just kind of there. We kind of stalled out, and that's part of that second half when he came on. So it wasn't, and it's not even like he was the problem. It was just everybody just kind of just like, just take it slow from here on out. Like, you could tell the urgency just wasn't there anymore, and people were just afraid to get injured and whatnot.
There you go. Charlie? Casadei, any thoughts?
Mate, it didn't really... He wasn't bad, but there wasn't really anything that stood out at all. So, yeah, there's not really much to add.
No, there really wasn't. Pice, just lastly, what I could actually ask you, thoughts on Lewis Hall, who obviously played in midfield, his more natural position, for the first time for Chelsea today, for the first team, sorry. What do you make of him? Obviously, with Chilwell being back, not in the too distant future, and obviously we have Cucurella, I'm not sure how often Lewis Hall will play on the left side anymore, but now that he's fully part of the first team, do you see him getting minutes in midfield at all? I guess it depends on availability, but still.
Yeah, no, I don't, to be honest. If it's in midfield, I don't, which is quite disappointing, because I think his position is actually a centre mid. But we've got so many centre mids, we've got obviously the main starters, then we got Gallagher, Chukwuemeka, Mount can play there, Loftus-Cheek, it's just, he ain't going to get any minutes. But if it's
nobody has over Mount and Chukwuemeka and Gallagher. Well, Gallagher, Tuchel tried it, but we all know he shouldn't have. Lewis Hall can clearly play in a pivot. And obviously did that. He has that over Chukwuemeka and Mount and stuff, I guess. But I agree with you still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he nearly scored, but other than that, I think I didn't really notice him too much, to be honest. But I think he's a player that, as you've seen when he's played for us in our first team, he just improves with better players around him. So I feel like today it's quite harsh to judge him almost.
Yeah. I thought he was decent. I thought there was some good touches again. There was some good defending, defensive runs where he, intercepted things at the last moment and stuff. So I thought it was okay. And obviously the chance he had means he gets forward and backwards, It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a bit of a nightmare there.
Can I ask a question?
Again, gone.
Okay, so Chelsea all the way in the chat says, the standards of this club is suddenly in the gutter. Trust the process, right? So my question to the panel,
nonsense, he says, yeah.
Yep. So I want to ask the panel, what right now, and this is also to the chat if you want to type it in, what right now puts you at the standards that you think Chelsea's at? Which I'm guessing your standards are top 4 going for the Premier League title. What are your changes right now? Mind you, you're not going to spend $200 million in January. You're not going to buy the players in January that are going to make much difference. So what is your solution to that right now? What top managers are around? And don't say Tuchel. So that is why I'm saying trust the process. That's my question for everybody here.
I think it's not just about results, obviously, Clutch. It's about, I'm probably going to get into a debate here, but it's about everything on and off the pitch as well. Like, I personally don't like how Potter acts on the bench. I don't like how he acts sort of in interviews and stuff. He doesn't really give me the same vibe I had before, but he's here now. He's not going anywhere. So I guess we have to, I don't know, the whole trust the process thing is kind of a fucking, like, it's kind of like a Twitter phrase now. It really annoys me, but I just like judging game to game and then forming an overall picture. So he's been here not long. He needs more time to work. He needs windows, but some of the early stuff I've seen, at least, like changing tactics too early, getting the tactics wrong, getting the lineups wrong, making subs too late, how he acts off the pitch, which I don't like. Obviously, I don't like that, but I'm gonna obviously give him time because, like, this comment I just don't agree with. Like, it's not nonsense. Like, at some point you do have to try and build something, but it depends. Like, what are your standards? Like, top 4, I still think we should be getting top 4. If we don't get top 4, I'll be a bit disappointed because I've not really seen Chelsea play Europa League football much. I hate Europa League football. But at the end of the day, like, if there's a clear plan and what he wants to do and where he wants to get us, maybe I'll buy into it. But it's not just about on the pitch; it's off the pitch as well. Everything around it, So that's why.
My thing when it comes to this is, like, this comment here basically tells me that Chelsea all the way thinks there's a single solution, and there's not. Like, we're gonna buy Nkunku in the summer. Like, that's positives. We're doing positives, right? But what managers are available are Chelsea quality that are going to get you to the top right now? None, because Tuchel's not available. We're not going to go get him because we clearly didn't have the same vision. Tuchel's a top manager. I agree with that. But if you want to have success in this long term, you can't just be like, oh, well, let's go get Luis Enrique, who has Spain, who has a very good squad, and yet balls out of the World Cup like that, playing
I don't think they're good
football.
At all. I think their team's shit, but fair enough.
They don't have a good striker, but everybody else is around them.
He picks the team. Like, he left players at home which would arguably make the team better.
What they have available, I just don't think Spain are very good anymore, but fair enough.
And Hansi Flick isn't available. Pochettino, that would be a car crash and a half. And if you think Zidane is even a good tactical manager, he's a good manager for sure. But again, like, the people that I'm being
right
mentioned
now is nowhere near big enough to get Zidane in. Like, what's Zidane going to do with this team, man?
Yeah,
like,
the only good thing about Zidane is obviously Paul Power would probably sign Mbappe, but
the Paul Power.
Someone's saying that Enrique's a treble winner. Yeah, with one of the greatest teams, and it was just given to him in his lap. Like, you don't want to discredit people because you still got to go and do it. But anyone could have sat in that dugout and won with that Barcelona team. Look what's more representative. What he's done with Spain, not great. At Roma, less than a 40% win rate in charge. This is a guy that is clearly talented, but to pretend that, getting rid of Potter and bringing in Luis Enrique is some sort of upgrade. It's utter nonsense.
It would take so long to work.
He plays dead football anyway. That passing style of football, you just have to watch Spain at the World Cup. Played some of the shittest football at the tournament. And we've got guys saying that if we think Enrique's going to do well at Chelsea, it's just utter nonsense.
Problem is, Charlie, I think the problem is like, people who, I'm not saying like you overback Potter or something, but when you go and like you go to those other managers and you talk about them and you go, oh well, they're not good at this, then these guys like Chelsea all the way will come back and say, well, has Potter done well so far? And then it just kind of ends up in a big argument, doesn't it?
For sure. But
that's the problem with this
I get that.
There's no it always has to be, someone has to be a right or a wrong. There's never any like balance.
There isn't a right or wrong, but like, that's people have got short memories. They're saying, oh, we've not seen any improvements. Well, hang on a second. If Thomas Tuchel had stayed, I think we'd be having the exact same conversation. We wouldn't be doing any better. Let's be perfectly clear about it. We wouldn't have been better than we are now if Tuchel had stayed, because some of the people have got short memory. Some of that football in the beginning of the season when he was still here, other than Tottenham, which we didn't actually win in the end, was utter dog shit. You know, do I want to sit and watch us get hammered by Leeds, embarrassed at Southampton, that shit performance away in Zagreb? Like that.
We also lost
in the space of
Zagreb,
3 months, once get battered by Everton, and then one scrape a win with a lucky penalty at the end.
I think it's about
Everton, mind you.
I think it's about what you majority want as well, because I think, you know, I want to do much better in the Premier League, but it still swings and roundabouts. Because for me, even like if Tuchel stayed on, I still think we would have at least got to a final or won a trophy this season.
We still might do that. We still might.
But that's just your opinion, though. Like, you could be right, Pies, but you could also be wrong, and we will never know.
But
like,
look at Tuchel, look at Tuchel. I don't want to make this about Tuchel, but Graham Potter against the big elite tactical managers worries me, because he can't even get it right against the smaller sides we've played. So that's just my issue.
Tuchel didn't get it right against the smaller sides, but he got it right against the bigger sides.
But in the big games, when it mattered, he did, and that is what wins you trophies. And Potter doesn't have that.
Sure. I agree with that, and I don't think anyone disagrees with
that.
But
the small games is what,
you know how when we have young players in the team, they take a little bit of time. Now we got a young manager. Now people might not like that. People might not like the fact that we don't have a finished product manager, but you're gonna have to deal with it, because that's what the situation is.
I don't think we're all.
I mean, I'm not sure if you guys agree, but to me, Potter is like, you know, like a young, talented footballer that has done certain things where I'm like, that gives us enough like credibility where I'm like, okay, there could be something in there. That's how I see Potter as a manager. Where I'm like, there could be something in there. Would Potter have been my first choice instead of Tuchel? No, I don't know who would have been. I'm not the one having to make that decision. We didn't expect Tuchel to get sacked when he did. So I didn't exactly sit there for months and try to think about who the best manager would be. I do think like the whole Enrique thing is a little bit of a, because I don't think we should completely discredit what he did with Barcelona, because, you know, he won the Champions League in the period where Real Madrid won one Champions League and then 3 in a row. That's when Luis Enrique, I'm pretty sure in 2015, won the Champions League and obviously won the treble and stuff. But that's Barcelona. He still had Xavi. I think Xavi was still there, but certainly did have Iniesta. He had Busquets. He had Messi. He had Suarez. He had Neymar. He had like PK at the peak of his powers. Like an unbelievable team. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything he did just doesn't work. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a very different league where that style works, where that style is part of their culture, where it really isn't in England. I think Luis Enrique would end up even worse within Stamford Bridge than Mauricio Sarri did, because it would just take so long to work and it would be so boring to watch 9 times out of 10, other than when you play the odd Costa Rica and you win 7-0. Like, that's why I'm like, why Luis Enrique now? Because Luis Enrique, if we got Luis Enrique, we would sit here and say, trust the process. Like, I'm not so sure Chelsea all the way is talking about getting Luis Enrique instead. But if you got Luis Enrique, we would still be in a trust the process situation. It doesn't matter who the manager is. Even with Thomas Tuchel, all of last season basically told us we're in a transition period. So trust the process still applied. It's just with a different manager now.
I mean,
there's no. I don't think there's a right or wrong at this current time. You need to give it at least a year, because I think, you know, those people saying, "Oh, Potter's not good enough." Maybe you think that it's a very small sample size, and maybe you're right. Maybe if he does stay here 2 years or something, or, you know, in 2 years, maybe he's had a few windows, and we're still not developing. Maybe you are right. But also, people that want to so-called trust the process, maybe they're right. Maybe getting Europa League and you know, not being in the Champions League is actually going to be beneficial to us. Maybe we don't get as many injuries next season in Europe, which then means we're better in the league and we progress. Like, there can be, you know, there's so many different angles.
We all want to,
or he's good, you know. So many angles.
We all want to win the Premier League. We all want Chelsea to win the Premier League, and unfortunately, football nowadays, you cannot win the Premier League, in my opinion, by constantly changing the manager every 18 months to 2 years. You cannot do it. You have to build something. And as Pi said, you know, I perhaps back Potter maybe more than other Chelsea fans too. But at the end of the day, this guy needs to be given a chance to try and build something. And, you know, he might not be good enough, but it's way too early to suggest whether he's good enough or not. This guy's not signed a single player for Chelsea yet. You know, he's not had a chance to get rid of who he wants. He's not working with a squad that is of his own players. Let the guy have a chance. The only way to win a Premier League is to allow a manager to build and bring in the players that he wants and build a squad of his own players. Because all we've seen time and time again at Chelsea is managers come in, we've got 3 or 4 managers worth of players in a mixed up squad, and it's a mess. And it's been like that for years. But because we've picked up a couple along the way, it's kind of glossed over it, and it's made us think it's all right. Ultimately, I haven't got a problem if, obviously, I'll be pissed if we play Europa League football next season. But if that means the following season that we're closer to challenging for the league, then I think that's a fair trade-off to have.
And it's an easier title to win.
See, everything that Charlie just said is the reason why I brought up this conversation. It's not like people think like when you say trust the process, that means like, oh, I'm guaranteeing Potter's going to do something well, that he's guaranteedly the guy. No, I'm not guaranteeing that. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think he is, but I have to give him the opportunity to become that. You have to give people the opportunity to overachieve in the expectations that you have for them. That's their job. That's not my job. Their job is to prove me wrong. Now, if you want a long period of success, like Charlie just said, it takes time. It just takes time. Nothing happens. You're not going to go and buy one player and one manager, and then everything, we're just going to start winning Premier Leagues. We're going to start winning the Champions League. It's not going to happen. There's no player that is. The player that is 35 years old, and his name is Lionel Messi, and he's not coming back. It doesn't happen like that. That's life. And that's why I'm trying to tell people when you have like the problem with trust the process. The process is the only way to go because it didn't work in the first place the way we were doing it under Abramovich. We got some stuff here and there, but we didn't have a long period of success.
Definitely worked. After that, It became a here and there.
Yeah. So it's the way things work now are not how they worked back then. And that's why I kind of brought up this conversation.
Sorry, it is true. I mean, for me, rather than the trust the process part of Chelsea all the way is common, I think the more relevant part is the whole standards thing. Because I think standards are an illusion that fans have. Because standards are completely reliant on the team, the manager, the owner. Like, the standards automatically have to be different whether you have a really good team or not as good a team. You have to, like, unless you want your standards to be and constantly be disappointed and want to be Arsenal after 2006. That's what they did. And that's why they took so long to be somewhere good again. Now, Arsenal will probably not win the league, obviously, this year, especially now that Gabriel Jesus is injured. Will they sustain being good now? Who knows? There's no one to know. But what we definitely do know is that after 2004, their invincible season, and then the Champions League final in 2006, they were utter dog shit for 10 years straight, basically. And then when was their last time they were in the Champions League when they got beat 5-2 by, was it 5-2 back-to-back by Bayern Munich? That was the last time they played Champions League football. And why did that happen? Because their fans, their club, they were running around life is saying like, we are Arsenal. We deserve to win the Premier League just because of who we are. We deserve to be in the Champions League. We deserve to, that's not how it works. You have to be realistic with what you have. And then the process is part to bring you back to where your standards were before. And the reason why our standards are now lower than they were 5 years ago is because of the transfer policies and manager policies that this club has had. That's the reason why the standards have dropped. The standards didn't drop because we went from Tuchel to Potter. The standards didn't drop because we went from Sarri to Lampard. They dropped because of all of these things. That's why the standards have gone from, okay, we expect to win the league every year, like it was in the 2010 era, and before that, to basically us being in the Champions League semi-final every year, never quite making it until 2012, but we want to win the Champions League. Yeah, but look at the squad we had then and look at the squad we have now. How can you possibly have the same standards? That is completely illogical. Like, that doesn't make any sense to expect the same from, like, what? This is so stupid. It's like, if you run 100 meters now and then you break your leg and then you're asked to run 100 meters again and you expect yourself to be as quick, even though you've got a fucking cast on. Well, you're not going to be as quick, are you? It's impossible. It's not humanly possible. The question that you have is just, how do we get back to where we all want to be? Because all of us want to be back to demanding to win the Premier League, demanding to win the Champions League, because that's what we want to do. That's where we want to be. The question is, how do we get there, right? Is Potter the right man? We don't know, but that's what the ownership went for now. And like Charlie said, if you keep changing the manager, you will never find out who the right person is to trust the process. I don't want to keep bringing up this Arsenal example, but Arsenal fans had the identical arguments we have now when they had Arteta in for the first few months. They're identical conversations because their results weren't very good. And some were like, trust the process. Some were like, no, you need to get rid of him. He's nowhere near good enough. He has no experience, blah, 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 blah. And if anything, I know he worked under Pep, so that is obviously certain something, and he won things for City. But of actually being in charge of the club, Graham Potter has way more experience than Mikel Arteta. And he's actually achieved, people say he's done nothing. In my opinion, he's not won trophies other than obviously the Swedish Cup. But in my opinion, what Graham Potter achieved, and that's why I was also less angry about the whole things with Sarri than a lot of other people were, because to me, you have to always apply by what is realistically achievable by what they did. The fact that what Sarri did with Empoli is unbelievable. Of course, he didn't win the league, but it's Empoli. But by their standards, what he did was outrageous. And the same thing by what Graham Potter, what he did for Östersund, by their standards, is literally a miracle. And arguably, even a lot of the things he's done with Brighton are miracles, right? So, like, yes, he hasn't done it at this level. That's absolutely fine. And that's facts. Like, I can't sit here and I won't sit here and deny that either. And then, yeah, I see some people sit there and say, yeah, but we want someone that's proven. Okay, fair enough. If that's your opinion, it's that the kind of manager that you want, fair. But if you keep doing that and changing the manager every 18 months, the problem is you run out of managers that are proven because there aren't that many. And if you change them every 18 months, they're not going to be enough. And you're either going to start doing what we did with Jose already, where you have managers twice, or you're not going to have enough because, like Clutch says initially, okay, Tuchel is not coming back. You're not getting Klopp. You're not getting Guardiola. So who do you get? Okay,
and you're not getting Ancelotti.
Some people will say Enrique. Okay, fair enough. It's a shout. I disagree with it, but at least it's a shout to make. Ancelotti is currently at Real Madrid and said he would probably retire after. So I don't think that will happen. Then who you've got? What? Allegri, who can't even get his own Juventus team where he should be good to be good. So that's a no. And then who else is there? Like, unless Bayern fire Nagelsmann, but are you guys going to sit here now? Well, Nagelsmann was so poor at Bayern that you now don't want Nagelsmann. Then people talk about Pochettino. Well, what has Pochettino done that's any better than what Graham Potter's done? I don't think anything, in my opinion. Now, people will maybe call me crazy for that, but I don't think Pochettino did anything more impressive than Graham Potter. He
did do something more impressive.
Same level of impressive things, just in a couple of games.
Did some
good things.
I'd rather have Graham Potter for 25 years than ever have Pochettino manage my club.
Exactly.
Hold up. There is something that Pochettino did that was impressive. He was one of the first managers to lose League One with PSG.
Although I do agree that I wouldn't want Poch, but just to slightly defend him, he took over a point behind and he finished a point behind. So it just as a little bit of context. But admittedly, you shouldn't.
Keep that guy away from him.
But you know, who
was the guy that was 1 point behind before Tuchel, and now we're crying about him apparently.
But yeah. People just got to be patient, you know. I think it's a problem is because now, like, you've got a lot of fans and a lot of younger fans who don't know what it's like to experience a difficult patch as a Chelsea supporter, and their first reaction when things are difficult is to moan, is to have a cry about it and
Charlie,
say about it.
I would say something. What I would say about, again, I'm going to go back to Tuchel because he's the last manager we had, but I think, like, when we lose now under Potter, it's like, I think because of how Tuchel was after we lost games, how, like, he was so, like you could see how pissed off he was. You could see, like, sometimes he would blame himself. Sometimes he would say, like, oh, you know, this isn't good enough. Like, fans, they connected with that because they thought you know what I mean? When we lose under Potter, it's just like, oh, you know, we had some good moments. You know, we tried. Like, fans, that actually makes fans more impatient than, like, you know what I mean? That's because people pissed off.
I appreciate that.
But that's because we live in a society where we just want to rag on people. Tuchel didn't do it right. That's not the right way. I'm sorry. You don't just come after a game and just start slagging off your players. That's not right.
He didn't do
that. That's bad. He did do that.
Okay,
he did that all the time.
He defended his players all the time in the media. It was only until the preseason thing against Arsenal where he went mental.
The phrase
hang on. He blames the Stamford Bridge lights when Jorginho cost us against Man United.
Correct.
Like,
but did he also not utter the phrase, we have the same players?
Under the bus because he threw
himself under the bus. He was going to get sacked, and he shouldn't have said that. But that was in this preseason we just had. Like when he was after Premier
It's
League
still-
games, when he was actually Chelsea manager, what he said made fans more patient with him because it connected with what the fans embodied, the trophies, the mentality. Potter doesn't do that. That's all I'm saying. That's why fans are so fucking impatient with him, because he doesn't say the right things and he doesn't do the right things. But again, do the right things. You need to give him more time, 100%.
And it's also completely subjective, right? What we believe to be right, and we believe to be right the
Absolutely.
way most of our managers have done things, right? And that's
Yeah,
because
I
that's what
think-
we
but
got
I
used
think-
to. And Tuchel did things similarly to like Jose, and Tuchel did things until Jose lost the plot, obviously, because until then. Jose never threw a player under the bus until he loses the plot. Then he's like, he can't be bothered anymore. By the time when he knows I'm getting sacked, then he can't be bothered. And then he's telling himself how great he is. But until then, he will distract everyone as much as he can from anything any player did wrong. And I mean, I don't remember the times of Ancelotti in terms of how Ancelotti spoke necessarily, but Conte was similar to Tuchel in that sense. But did that bring us anywhere? No, it brought a short-term success. But the short-term success is why we now don't have long-term success. That's half of the problem. Like I agree. Like I even agree with Pies. I'm like, I do want Potter to be a bit more animated. I don't want him to say, "Oh, we tried." When all of us sit there and say we didn't even try. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, select what you say, but I also think it's a bit silly to like make your full judgment on a manager by what he says to the media, because like that's not the relevant
What
part.
he says though, what he says sets the standard for the rest of the team and the fan
No,
base.
what he says to the team sets the standard. Nobody says to the media, and we don't know what he says to the team. That's why I think
that's the difference. Like obviously, what as you say, mate, what managers say to the media and what managers say behind closed doors could be totally different. Look, we don't know that because we're not in the dressing room. We don't know. There's a chance, admittedly, that what he says to the media could be the same message that he's relaying to the players. But there's also a chance that what he says to the media is completely different to what he says to the players, and perhaps he doesn't want to give away that he's annoyed or whatever in the media, and he'd rather give that away behind closed doors in the dressing room. I'm just putting that as a possibility. I'm not saying either is right or wrong, because they could both be right. But I think, you know, I can understand as a fan why you would like it as a manager to come out and, you know, say, look, this X wasn't good enough in this game. We should have done this. We should have done that. Next time we'll do better, rather than hearing, you know, and I'll be honest, there's been comments from Potter, particularly after the Carabao Cup game against City away, where he spoke as if we were like a lower league side going for a big day out in a big away game against City. Yeah, I didn't agree with that, but whether he said the same thing, you know, to the players is different. And yes, he could speak better to the media, but ultimately, what really matters is what he says to the players in person. And I get the media thing is important, but that's just kind of what he has to do. He has to come out and say something. And I'd rather him say the right things to the players than the right things to the media and the wrong things to the players.
I agree with that. But
I think when it comes,
the media, what you say to the media is what the fans hear, and I think he's
for sure.
buttons at the moment. That's just my
That's why I'm saying.
But
I agree with the idea, absolutely. I just think it's not it's a part of everything, but I don't think we should make our main opinion of what he says to the media. That's what I'm trying.
But yeah, again, I think that's
of it, though. Like it's why fans are like on the pitch as well. Like, but what you say like after the game, you know, some of my most like interactive tweets are like what he says after a game. It's people want to like hear that and connect.
Of
with
course.
I do. I agree to I agree to some standard, right? There needs to be like, okay, we weren't good enough in this area today. We weren't good enough. But to go out there and be like, hey, like these players are not good enough. Every one of these players know when they're not good enough. It's not like they don't understand that.
Clutch, I don't want him to say that. That's stupid. I want something like, you know, like just be truthful. Like don't say we tried our best when you clearly didn't try your fucking best. Like I've seen Chelsea try their best. Like don't lie to us. Don't try and paint the picture. Like when I watch some of the games and he comes out with some of the stuff he says, I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? What game was it? I remember I went to a game and after the game I was so pissed off and I was like, you know, Graham Potter's going to be so angry. And he was when I watched that interview, can't remember what game it was. I'll have to go back to the fixtures, but he was so relaxed and that just made me even more angry. And I'm just like, how can you possibly be like that? Like that's just what annoys me.
And I agree with you as well with that. It's a problem because even when he says things like, you know, we tried everything in the grand scheme of things. No, but with so many injuries, maybe the players are all so dead that they actually did try everything. We just didn't have more in it. We don't know that for sure, do we? But sorry, I need to just highlight this here because this is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. Potter Reeks, I mean, mid-table manager, you have your opinion. But like Moyes at Manchester United, Moyes was at Everton for what, 10 years, 12 years before he went to Manchester United? He was stuck at the same club for 12 years. While Graham Potter took a team from Division 4 to the first division in their country, won the cup, and took Brighton from a relegation fighting team that constantly was up and down between Premier League and Championship to a solid mid-table team aiming for higher. And you're saying he's like David Moyes. Excuse yourself? What are you talking
Super
about?
Tommy Tuchel, why do you have that name and then Potter as your picture?
Yeah, he's just weird. Maybe he's a troll. Maybe he's a troll. You take Jesse Marsh over Potter, to be honest. But on the basis
Jesus
of what
Christ.
then? Like, that's just silly. Like, Jesse Marsh hasn't achieved anything more.
No, he was a massive flop at Leipzig.
Oh, amazing. With Salzburg.
But
no offense to Clutch, but I think we've got enough American contingent right now.
I know. I would lose the plot a little bit if we got an American manager as well now. Sorry, I will be honest.
You're not wrong. It's not like Jesse Marks is a good coach.
No, I mean he's not a bad coach. I don't think
he's not bad, but he's not good either.
He failed him. He's so arrogant. I hate that guy.
Yeah, no,
so
he is
much.
arrogant. He's a but
really
that's just how he goes about it, right? Every manager, and I think that's sometimes what people slightly underestimate. Managers, their job is partly to be a bit of an actor, to be a bit of a like a. I don't know what the best example is. It depends on what you guys' life experiences are. But like, I don't know, if it's a company and like there's a guy in charge of like a team, like you need to act. Everyone will act certain ways, right? The way Potter says, yeah, we tried everything, and that's kind of just his way of keeping like spirits a bit higher, of not letting the spirits drop too much, like because he knows, okay, we've got training tomorrow and then we play another day 2 days later. I can't just say how shit we are at everything now. Even if it's not as talking about individuals, because like Pai said, obviously we don't want that. But I'm not saying it's right, but that's just how they do things, right? That like every manager has different ways of doing things. Tuchel did things differently to Jose. Jose did things differently to Carlo Ancelotti. Jose does things differently to Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp do things completely differently, and yet both can be successful. Like there's no one perfect way of doing things. That's the only way that works. And the problem is, we just need to wait and see like how this one works out. And I understand completely that that's scary. I understand that that's concerning because we are Chelsea fans and we want us to win. And the problem is also that what happened in 2015-16 to us, the fact that we were 16th when Jose got sacked and then we finished 10th, that the fact that we bounced back from that to win the league, that's not normal. Like, but it made Chelsea fans think that kind of thing is normal. And it made Chelsea fans think that, okay, you have a bad season, you still go back to winning the season after. That doesn't happen. We're the only, I feel like, has any other club ever pulled that off? Winning the league, come 10th, win the league. That's not a thing that happens. Like, I know we did it, but you can't, like, that has nothing to do with standards. That's a one-off thing that happens once in a lifetime. That's you know what I mean? But I'm like, that's why I disagree with Chelsea all the way. Where I'm like, I don't think the standards have dropped. I think it's just being realistic about when it's realistic to make those standards happen. Because we can have the standards, we want to win the league and the Champions League, absolutely. But we need to be realistic where like, okay, well, it's not going to happen now. So like, okay, how do we get there? And that's what it's, and then it's still what our standard is we want to get there and then be there again. But you can't just sit here every season and say that's the standard. Like that's just illogical if the squad isn't good enough to achieve it. Like you can't just have the standard of that. Do you know what I mean? Does anybody else want to add anything to that? Otherwise, I'm going
one of the things I think people like the most important questions in life are why and how, not what, where, when. So this is where we're at now, right? But how do we get to where we want to be? Why are the things we are seeing now? Why are we not seeing a long period of success? So if we're not seeing that, how do we get to that long period of success? And those are the questions we need to ask more frequently. And I think people are just like so obsessed with this. We need trophies every season. It's just like, sure, like that's cool. But do you want maybe an FA Cup here, maybe a Champions League here, or do you want every year you're challenging for the Premier League title? Every year you're going deep into the Champions League. Every year you're towards the end, like City are. Because these are the things you have to do. You have to have that period of pain. You have to suffer a little bit. Because it's not going to be easy building to what you want. that's just life. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, let me just highlight this quickly because I can't sit here and say you're fully wrong by what you say. It makes wrong subs. Not all the time. You also make good subs.
Everyone makes
lineups.
wrong subs.
Sorry?
Every manager makes wrong subs.
Pep lost the Champions League because he didn't start Rodri. So
to use wrong subs as a criticism of a manager,
especially as the first one to mention,
subs is not a valid criticism for a manager because every manager in instances makes wrong subs.
It's about how you learn from those wrong subs and wrong lineups.
Let's let him have his thing. We can disagree, do you know what I mean? But let's wrong subs. Okay, fair enough then. Wrong lineups, whether it's lineup, system, whatever. I do agree with that. That has happened on too many occasions where you got the game plan wrong from the get-go, and that shouldn't happen. Wrong interviews, wrong is your favorite word, is it? Okay, in some people's opinion, yeah, sure. Bad results, absolutely. And you trust in the process. And the thing that's important here is if this is still the case, all of those things are still the case come March, April, then even I will sit here and say, well, yes, he hasn't had 2 years yet, but there still needs to be, it can't be like this all the time. Like it cannot. Like you can't need signings to pick the right system. No, you need to still be able to, as a good manager, you still need to be able to adapt to what you have. Sure, you have a process to what you're trying to do, but that's not what Potter's doing anyway. Like if he's chopping and changing systems all the time, you can't say that's where he is. But if that's still the case in March and April, then I will say, yeah, maybe Potter was the wrong choice. We need to get rid. But now it's too soon to make that decision. And so Tommy Tuchel asking, give us a realistic target. My target is still top 4. I actually still believe we will get top 4. A lot of people call me crazy for this, but I still think that because Conte at Spurs, they will collapse. I would almost be willing to put money on it. United, you'll have to wait and see. And you'll have to wait and see what Liverpool do for the rest of the season. I still believe that we can get top 4. And I still believe that we will get top 4. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, it's every chance of doing it. We have a game in hand. We're not that far behind in the grand scheme of things. Like we're less far off top 4 now than we were when Tuchel took over in January. And we have more games to go. So like, it's not impossible, clearly. And, more teams are in bad form. So things are certainly possible. So my realistic target is still top 4. But the realistic target can't be Premier League, can't be winning the league, because that's not realistic. And that's why I think what people talk about. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because when you sit there and say, oh yeah, top 4, is that a realistic target? Is that your standards then? Is that what you're so drastically angry with, that not making top 4 is okay? What makes me way more angry is that people are okay with the standard of top 4 is okay. That I can accept that while the squad is not better than that, but as a grand scheme standard, just making top 4, we're not Arsenal. We're not Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, where top 4 is just everything that's required. No, I disagree with that. This season, I can ask for top 4, depending on how the season goes, and for what reasons. If we don't get it, it depends on the reasons, how bad I view that as. But at the end of the day, my standards aren't top 4. My standards are I want to win the Premier League. Right? Like, so that's what I find weird when people say, top 4, blah, blah, blah. No way this Muppet will get top 4. See, Vic, you'll see. Just wait and see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but, people said we wouldn't get it under Sarri. We did. People said we wouldn't get it under Tuchel, or in that season when initially Lampard was here and then Tuchel got it. People said we wouldn't get it when Tuchel joined. I said we would, and we did. People said we wouldn't get it last year, and we did. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. I don't know. But, there was a lot of fans saying the last 3 seasons straight that we wouldn't get top 4 by the time we hit December and January. And in the end, we always did. So why don't you hold your horses a little bit and wait and see. But yeah, boys, anything else to add? Otherwise, I'm
just very, very briefly. One last thing. There is a friendly next week. I don't know who it's against, but Potter after the game said there's a friendly next week, but I don't know who the opposition are. So there is a game next week.
Fair enough. Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, I think that is good. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought this would be a slightly shorter stream, but in the end, we talked about different things, which I enjoyed. So here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, I haven't reminded you even once today, but if you haven't already, please do subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Please subscribe to Charlie's channel. The link is down in the description. I didn't expect Pies to be here, so his website is not linked in the description, but please just put it into, Google Chrome or whatever you use, and put ChelseaFC365.com and check out Pice's website. Of course, follow Clutch on Twitter as well. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I said thank you guys for watching about 3 times now. Onwards and onwards. I will see you next time.